Get ready for the kickoff of Coach Red and Company.
Ready?
An inside look at high school athletics like you've never heard before. Hosted by veteran coaches Red Johnston and Shane Huygens. This podcast dives deep into the world of high school sports, exploring much more than scores and stats. Whether you're a coach, a parent, student athlete, or fan, Coach Red and Company is your go-to podcast for the developments beyond the X's and O's of high school sports. Red and Shane are tackling the big topics like NIL, recruiting, team dynamics, and even the dollars and cents behind the game, such as budgets, facilities, and coaching salaries. Let's talk high school sports. Real, raw, and unfiltered. This is Coach Red and Company.
Touchdown!
All right, everybody, welcome back to Coach Red and Company. You heard the amazing intro that we had, and we're here today to talk about all things high school athletics. Today, we're going to be talking about NCAA eligibility, and we're going to get into the new House versus the NCAA lawsuit just a tiny bit. I think it kind of goes with the eligibility part, talking about roster limits. So as an athlete, you need to know, okay, these are the requirements I need to get into either Division I, Division II, NAIA, but then also what are the roster limits if I am a Division I quality player? Now they're limiting the amount of students, athletes that can be on each team. So we'll get into that in a little while. First of all, I want to welcome our co-host, Coach Shane. How you doing today, Coach?
Doing well. Ready to give out some great information today. And just to let people know, Coach Red was doing an awesome job this week trying to line up a super guest, and it just fell through late. Not a big deal, so we'll give you information we know. But I do know we have two big-time guests coming up. We got a prime-time Division I coach and a big-time skills trainer. So if you haven't subscribed yet, if you're not one of our
116 right now.
16 subscribers, get subscribed, because in the following month, you won't want to miss these two guests. I mean, I'm telling you right now, I give major credit to Coach Red. He's putting everything into this podcast, and I love it. I'm just kind of here along for the ride, and I'm glad he gave me the opportunity to take this ride with him. But if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do. A lot of information today. Coach Red's going to put up a ton of links. This is great for parents, no doubt, and also for the athletes, because I'm telling you right now, mom and dad can only do so much, right? They got full-time jobs. They're working. They're hustling. Do your research as an athlete as well. So when mom and dad ask you questions, you already know the answers, and then they can work together. You can form a team that can figure out, hey, what do we do next? You know, how do we fill out the FAFSA form, right? How do we do this? How do we do that? There's a lot more things than you think, I should say, to be eligible. So good being here, Red. Sorry about that. A little long-winded.
No worries. I will kind of piggyback on the guest. The high major Division I coach is a tournament guest or a tournament participant in the NCAA tournament. And the skills trainer has worked with some of the top NBA players that are in there today, and some former NBA players. So, no, I'm excited about that. That'll be in our coaching kind of more than X's and O's episode. So we're super excited that both those guys agreed. So let's get after it today. Yeah. So if you can see on the screen, guys, you'll see the 8 different college governing bodies. You know, we're going to talk about this main one right here. I don't know if my arrow's over it. The NCAA has 3 divisions, Division I, II, and III. Also a division, or I won't say division, but a group that a lot of kids should be aware of is NAIA. Have some phenomenal sports in NAIA level.
Absolutely.
You also have the JCAA, which is junior college, community colleges, USCAA, NCCAA, the 3C2A, which is the California Junior College League, the NWAC, Northwest Athletic Conference. My daughters have actually had some coaches in that conference look at their highlights. And then we have the ACC, down here. So, looking at these guys, we scroll down. NCAA has obviously 3 divisions. Everybody thinks Division I. If I'm not a Division I athlete, then I'm not good enough. Well, that's just ridiculous. You should want to go to Division III, where your parents don't have to pay a dime. You have to look at everything that you've done to get to this point. We're not all blessed with Division I talent, but a lot of us are blessed with the ability to play at the college level. I got 2 years of junior college to play. I wanted to be honest with you. My grandmother did work in the bookstore at Valencia at the time. She did introduce me. But I was able to play the second semester both years because all the great guys that we had in front of me didn't make grades at the semester and they were gone. So I did get to fill in. But, it was a great opportunity. And then obviously I moved into officiating and coaching. But, to be at the Division I level, don't put all your eggs in that basket.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm telling you, because it's not for everybody. And now with the new roster limits that are coming down with the House versus the NCAA lawsuit that should be finalized in April, that's going to limit and cut back. I've heard up to 10,000 student athletes in the Division I level. Where are they going? They got to have to drop down. And then that's kind of going to create a trickle-down effect. So you have the NCAA. It's got about 350 schools. I have a newer
that's Division I. That's Division I schools only, Coach Red.
That's Division I schools only. It's about 190,000 total athletes playing at those 350 schools. It's not on this screen, but we do have the numbers for Division II. There is about 310 universities, colleges and universities out there. For Division III, the number we picked up today off the NCAA website was 431. So you're looking at 1,091 NCAA institutions at the Division I, II, and III level. Moving down from there, guys, you got junior college, the National Junior College Athletic Association. Again, I'm a proud product of junior college at Valencia Community College here in Orlando when we had it. Unfortunately, the president at the time when I was there retired in 2000, got rid of all sports. I'm going to look dead in this camera and ask that the president of Valencia Community College seriously consider bringing back athletics for the students and athletes here in the Tri-County area, Orange, Osceola, Seminole, Lake. It provides such an unbelievable opportunity for kids to play. They're close to home. It's a community-based school. So I really think that Valencia should think about it. I think Seminole should think about adding back a few sports. I think they only have maybe baseball and one other sport on the ladies' side. So junior colleges in Florida have kind of dwindled since I played back in the 80s and 90s. So I really would like to see some of these college presidents relook at the benefit, which way outweighs the cost to help these young people. So junior college is one. Over 500 schools, has 70,000 athletes. They sponsor 28 different sports. The National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics, NAIA, which Coach Shane's son plays at right now out in Iowa, Briarcliff. They have 250 schools, over 83,000 student athletes playing 16 different sports. And if you're a basketball guy or a football guy, there's some phenomenal talent at the NAIA level. So don't sleep on them, guys. The United States.
Real quick, Coach, saying that, didn't want to interrupt, but saying that the starting point guard that went to Hastings College last year in the same conference my son went to transferred Division I after his sophomore year. So it can happen.
It can definitely happen. Moving down, you got the United States College Athletic Association, 69 different schools. They sponsor 8 men and 7 women's sports. You can see what those are on the screen. Then if you are someone of faith and would like to play in a faith-based institution, there's a number of those out there through the National Christian College Athletic Association. I believe we have one in Kissimmee, Johnson
University. It's based out of, there's another one in Tennessee, which is the home campus, but Johnson University is in Kissimmee, yes.
Yep, and I believe they have sports there, correct?
Absolutely. I sent a kid from my post-grad, went there and played basketball there. Absolutely.
Phenomenal. So they got 95 schools that cover 9 men's sports and 8 women's sports. They can offer only Division I schools, so looks like they have a couple different divisions within the NCCAA. In the Division I, their top-tier schools can offer some athletic scholarships as well. Then you have the Association of Christian College Athletics. Again, another 17 schools throughout the country that compete in athletics. And then I'll let Shane talk about this group, the California Community College Athletic Association.
Yeah, that's
Hang on real
Tell
quick.
them, Red. Tell them, Red.
The California Community College Athletic Association has 108 member schools. It's a junior college conference, if I'm not mistaken, Coach. Over 26,000 athletes in there. They have 24 men's sports along with women's sports. So 10 conferences throughout California. So, if you're looking for a junior college in Florida, obviously has dwindled down the number of opportunities that they have to offer within the different sports. I believe California, a majority of them have football. Is a big
lot of them do.
Junior college sport out there, along with Mississippi. But talk a little bit about this one, Coach.
Well, this conference is, for us guys living in Florida, it's probably not a very well-known conference. But if you live on the West Coast, this is the real deal. Over 100 schools. Basketball programs are phenomenal. They don't offer athletic scholarships. They do offer academic, but the cost of the school is very low in most situations. If you're a student that would qualify for the Pell Grant, your cost is very low after the Pell Grant, very low. I sent 3 kids from my post-grad program, went to the same basketball program out in California. The coach really took care of them. After a year, they turned into California residents, and they literally went to school for 2 years. And if I remember the numbers right, I think they ended up making like they were full Pell Grant kids, but they ended up making like 3 or 4K after 2 years. I mean, the coach got them EBT cards. I mean, they do things differently out in California. And I always tell people, Coach Red, hey, you can go play basketball at a D3 up in Jersey, or you can go play at a school in Michigan. But dude, California is a pretty nice place to end up. Like if you could end up in California for 2 years, most places in California are pretty nice. So don't rule it out, because like I said, I sent 3 there and they've all moved on to play at 4-year institutions after that. So it's a great, valuable option, and it opens up. Think about it. 108 schools, 26,000 more spots for athletics in California. Yep. So a little bit about that league. Great league.
And my girl, Bonnie Baisden, out of Freeport, Bahamas, with the House of Hoops and Dreams, she sends 1-2 kids out there. And I don't want to say the wrong name, but she sends a couple of kids out there every year, and they end up moving on to play Division II or some low Division I schools as well. And our 8th and final conference is the Northwest Athletic Conference, up mainly in the Northwest, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, British Columbia, 36 member schools, and they sponsor 7 men's and 8 women's sports. So you can look into those as well. So go ahead.
And Red, I also had a former player of mine that played at a junior college out in Colorado, and then ended up finishing out in the NWAC conference up there in Washington, and played 2 years up there. And if I always tell people, if you want to play basketball, you want to play sports, any sport. Like if you're really passionate, you'll play anywhere. Like I'll go and play at Alaska Fairbanks. If you really love playing the sport, you don't care where you really play. Now, do you want to play somewhere nice? Yeah, I mean, come on. I tell people, y'all want to play in Florida. Florida's limited. Division I, Division II, NAIA, JUCO. There just ain't a ton of them. There's no D3s. There's no D3 JUCOs, so you're limited. Just JUCO alones, if JUCOs and D3s, if you look up in the Northeast, the number's ridiculous. California, we just mentioned, over 100 junior colleges. Florida's less than 20. So if you want to play, there's places for you. You just got to look. I know we're talking eligibility a little bit more than that, but just throwing that out there.
ladies and gentlemen, when you're looking to play at the college level, there's certain requirements that you have to have, right? Yep, you got to be blessed by the man upstairs with some God-given ability to be able to play. College coaches start watching you, get some interest in you. Now the ball starts rolling. So you guys have to do a number of different things academically. The first and foremost is registering with the NCAA Eligibility Center. And what that does is you're going to send your transcripts. I believe after your sophomore year, you'll send them after your junior year, and then obviously either once or twice during your senior year, once you've completed high school, to show that you've taken the core courses. Now, what's a core course, you might add? That is your English, math, science, social studies, religion, foreign language. And with math, it has to be an Algebra 1 level or higher to count for the NCAA. You can find out what your core courses are by visiting your high school counselor, or your college or your high school coach should know the answer to this. Unfortunately, a lot of guys don't. As a former college coach, when I became a head coach, I brought that knowledge with me, and I was able to have a folder in my file cabinet of every player. I had his worksheet. If he wanted to play or I thought he was capable of playing, we did a worksheet for him. We kept track of all his core courses, grades, whether it was a semester class or a full year class. And we, kind of showed what his core GPA was, and then we also monitored his test scores. So I want to share my screen with you guys to kind of give you what we're talking about. We are going to
Coach Red, just to piggyback real quick. Also, make sure that you understand the difference between a core class and just a regular class. Because a lot of kids will say, "Oh no, I took all these classes." Yeah, but those weren't core classes. Like the class that you took dance class ain't going to count for anything.
PE, art.
It's a half a credit to get you to graduate, but it doesn't count for your eligibility to play sports at the next level for Division I, Division II. They do have a list of NCAA approved courses for your high school. That's online, and your counselor should have that as well. So just to piggyback on that, throw it back to you, Coach Red.
Yep. So, guys, when we're talking, now let's talk a little bit about the NCAA requirements. So there is a place for you. If you want to play, there is a place for you to play. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Guide to College-Bound Student Athletes. We'll have a link in the YouTube channel below. This is a must for every student athlete who wants to play in college. This is going to give you everything from the rooter to the tutor about what you need to do. That's that countryside coming out.
That's
of me.
Old school. I love it.
Everything you need to do to be prepared to play in college on your first day on campus. So with Division I and Division II, guys, we talked about earlier, you have to have 16 core, and you'll see right here, 16 core approved courses, credits in the following areas, right? You have to have 4 English, which we take every year in high school, 1 a year. You have to have 3 math classes, Algebra 1 or higher, like I mentioned earlier. You have to have 2 years of science, including 1 year of a lab, if offered. And then you get to pick an additional year of English, math, or science, whatever you're better at, take one of those. 2 years of social science, or most people call it social studies. And then you have 4 additional core courses that you have to take. A lot of people in Florida, there is a foreign language requirements, 2 years of that. So that takes 2 of those classes off, and you could take a religion class. I know we don't offer much religion class in a public high school setting, but if you're at a if you're at a private school or maybe a charter school, they may offer a religious type class or a philosophy type class. So, 4 years of that. If we scroll down a little bit on this chart, it's going to give you each semester how many classes you should be taking. To be eligible for Division I, guys, you have to have a 2.3 core GPA. So we're not again, counting your art class, your PE class, student assistant grade. None of those count. They make your overall grade look pretty good, but it doesn't help your core GPA. So you have to have at least a minimum of a 2.3 GPA to be a qualifier. If you have a 2.0 GPA in your core, you can become what they call, I believe it's an academic red shirt, where you would basically go on campus. Like back in the days, we used to call them non-qualifiers, where you could practice, receive scholarship money, but you could not play. So a 2.3 is not that hard to obtain, boys and girls. So make sure you're taking care of your academics. It goes by and it shows, an example of where you should be after 4 years of high school. Now, if you're excel academically, we have a lot of students I know in football and volleyball that will graduate in December of their senior year and go on to college. You would need to get with your guidance counselor to see if you could take, your senior English, which probably taken online. I know there's an online class requirement for high schools in the state of Florida. So that could, if you are academically enabled enough to graduate a semester early, that might be an option for you to do as well. So, that's kind of your Division I requirements. Again, it's 16 core courses with a minimum of a 2.3 core GPA, and that is unweighted.
And as I said before, Coach Red, make sure you know your core GPA. Okay, Coach Red mentioned the art, the dance, the whatever you're taking that doesn't count. You might go home and say, "Oh, I'm good. I got a 3.1. I'm way above it." Then you go back and you look at your 4 years of English and your 3 of math and your 2 of science. You're like, "Oh man, I'm like at 2.45," because that A in your PE or your A in your whatever. Back in the day, we used to say basket weaving, but your A in your non-core classes doesn't count. So make sure you know the actual cores. Start doing that worksheet. I think there's probably one. There used to be one in this packet. I haven't looked all the way down, but if they have it, make sure you start filling it out with your counselor so you know where you're at and you know what your GPA is in your course. So going into your senior year, hey, do you have a little wiggle room or do you need to hammer it?
All right, guys, here's the worksheet Coach Shane was just talking about. This is your Division I worksheet. Pretty simple to work. English 9, when you're a freshman, after your first semester, you would type in English 9 right here. Tab
look
over.
at that, interactive.
Look at that. Let's say
put your grade in. Put your grade in, Red, for English 9. What'd you have?
Yeah, let's not put my grade in. Let's hope. Let's be hopeful. So kid gets a B. That's going to be 1.5 points at the semester, as you can see right here, right? Because it's a semester course, or we gave the grade after the semester. If we gave it after, if we made this a 1 credit score, you see this changes right here to a 3. All right. So every semester, it's half of what your normal score was. If you had an A, it'd be 2 for the semester, 4 for the complete year. And you would just completely fill this out every year, every semester, guys, as you scroll down. Let's see if it'll give it to me right now. I have, because I only have 1 grade in, I have a 3.0 core GPA. I don't know if
I see the Division 2 underneath there, Red.
Yeah, I'll scroll down and show the Division 2 sheet as well.
Awesome.
But these are
This is
interactive.
awesome.
You can save them on your computer, keep working on them. Again, I used to have one for every one of my players. Here's Division 2. See, you only need 3 years required English for Division 2, but you still got to take 4 years of English in high school in Florida. But that you could take one of those and put it down here as you're an additional year of English, math, or science.
I'm loving this part right here, Red. I mean, back in the day, me and you had to print it out and fill it in. This, you just literally put it in, and it takes all the guesswork out of it. Like the kid can't say, "Coach, now is that 2 points or is that 2.25?" No, look at, we just put it in, and as long as you put the right grade, the credit in, either a 0.5 or the 1, it's literally going to spit it out for you. And then at the bottom, it tells you your quality points and your credits and your course GPA.
Yep.
Literally, they can't make it any easier for you now. I love it. It's simple right now, very easy.
And that's what I love about it. You know, before I would just print these and just handwrite them in pencil so I could erase and change. But now, yeah, just save it to your computer. You can always open it up. It'll still have this interactive part where you can just type in whatever the grade was, whatever the the number is for the 1 or a half a credit, and go from there. You may take, half a credit in algebra where I got a B. I struggled the second half and I got a D. Well, you can take that half of algebra 1, use it, and then let's say you get a full year of geometry, you got a B in that, fantastic, use the B. If you've taken multiple math classes, you can use a half semester of one, and a half semester of the other, as long as your core total at the end of the day is a 2.3 or higher.
Go back and do a grade replacement possibly.
Correct.
Using the online systems or virtual schools that are offered in every state. So if you did really bad in English as a ninth grader, but we could go back maybe and see in our 10th grade year, 11th grade year, there are rules once you get past a certain year on grade replacement. But if you notice that kind of early, like, hey, I got a D in there or a C, and now I'm getting A's and B's, go back and take it in a summer on FLVS or whatever virtual schools offer to you, and get that D replaced by a B or a C, and you'll see your core GPA go from, a 2.4 to a 2.7 maybe overnight.
Yep.
So that's always a good option, because that freshman year, just like in college, a lot of times coming from middle school, a lot of things go on that freshman year when you get to high school. Things change.
Girls seem to do a little bit better academically than us.
Well, they always do. Yeah. I've always said a long time, they're way smarter than us.
Young men. There are some very intelligent young men out there. All right, guys. So here's the Division II academic standards for initial eligibility. Again, you still have to have 16 approved core courses. All right. Division II, you don't have to have 4 English. Again, you only need 3. Right. 2 years of math, algebra 1 or higher. 2 years of science, including 1 lab. 3 years of additional English, math, or science. 2 social studies, and 4 years of additional classes, world language, comparative religion, or philosophy. Division II, they drop it down just a hair to a 2.2 core GPA with the 16 core courses. Now, some of you may ask, well, what's my test score got to be? Well, in January of 2023, Division I and Division II removed the test score from initial eligibility. So you don't have to take or have a qualifying score for the SAT or ACT for initial eligibility. That being said, some schools, especially probably Division III and some higher academic institutions, may require you to provide them with an ACT or SAT test score. But to get in initially for the NCAA Division I, Division II, you do not have to have a qualifying test score. A few years ago, it was a sliding scale. The higher your core GPA, the lower your test score could be. They've thrown that out the window. 100 years ago, it was either you had a 1.5 and an 820 or a 720, and they constantly change it. But, here is kind of what you need for Division I and Division II. With NAIA, let me see if I can switch over.
Hold on,
here.
Coach Red, do you mind if I say something real quick here?
Yep.
I noticed a couple of things that are interesting.
Yep.
So, as Coach Red said, in Division I, you've got 4 years of English and 3 years in Division II. I also noticed Division II, you got 2 years of math rather than 3. So Division II is going to be a little easier to get eligible. And what I mean by that is you're going to take your 4 years of English no matter what. So that 9th grade year that I just said you might not do well in, it doesn't count. You're going to take your 3 best English classes. And if you took 4 years of math, algebra 1 or higher, you're only taking your 2 best. So that gives you a little wiggle room there on the Division II compared to, the 4 years of English in Division I. But you got to remember, Division I, you still only need 3 math. So if you took 4, you're only taking your 3 best ones. So you can throw that class that you might have struggled in when you were a little younger and throw it out the window. That makes a little bit of a difference as far as being eligible right there.
And I think it also allows you on both standards, Shane, it also allows you on your additional English, math, or science, or your additional courses down at the far right, it allows you to take classes that you're better in,
Yeah.
whether it's I'm a science guy or I'm a math guy or I'm an English
Mm-hmm.
guy.
Yep.
It allows you to take those classes that you are better at to help your core GPA.
Yeah. They're doing everything for you to help you out. Let's be honest. They're doing as much as they can to make sure you're eligible. Like Red said, back in the day, it was a set standard, and you either met it or you didn't. You needed the test score. And then they made it where it was a sliding scale where they said, let's make it a little easier. Now they've literally made it where it's like, hey, come on.
Yep. Either you're kind of in or you're out.
Yeah, you're kind of in or out.
All right, everybody, let's talk real quick about NAIA eligibility requirements. A little bit different than the NCAA. So let me share my screen with you real quick. We'll pull them up and we'll talk about them. So initial eligibility in the NAIA level starts at the end of your junior year. You're going to submit your information to them. At the end of your junior year, you're going to need to have a 3.3 GPA without a qualifying test score. Or if you don't have that, you got to have at least a 3.0 with a qualifying test score. If you didn't meet those at the end of your junior year, after your first semester of your senior year, semester 7, you got to have at least a GPA of a 2.8 or higher without a qualifying test score, or a 2.5 with a qualifying test score. And we'll talk about test scores in just a second. If you don't meet those after your first semester of your senior year, at the end of graduation, you have to have at least a 2.3, which is the same as the NCAA Division I level minimum GPA, without a qualifying test score. Remember, they waived the qualifying test score in Division I and II. NAIA is doing the same thing as long as you have at least a 2.3. If you're between a 2.0 and a 2.3, then you have to do two of three things. You have to have at least a 2.0 plus GPA. You have to have a qualifying test score, or you have to rank in the top 50% of your class. So you have to have two out of those three. You're not a great test taker, but you're in the top 50 and you got a 2.0, you're good. If you have a 2.3, which again, not that hard to do if you put your mind to it. So NAIA requirements a little bit different. All right, they're not telling you got to have so many math or English, but you have to have a GPA overall of at least a 2.3. Homeschool. Coach Shane's getting ready to talk about homeschool requirements, a little bit different than traditional school. With the homeschool kid, it shows right here that after May 1st, 2019, they have to achieve a score of 18 on the ACT or a 970 on the SAT.
Some of you may not be in traditional schools, public high schools, a private school, charter school. So, Coach Shane's got a little bit more knowledge with the homeschool and the non-traditional school. So I'll let him talk about that real quick as far as eligibility goes. And I'll pull up the section on the Guide to College-Bound Student Athlete that talks about.
It's page 21, Red. Homeschool students, non-traditional students. And when I'm talking about that, that's usually that the county has made you send them a letter saying that your son or daughter is going to be homeschooled. Some virtual schools here in Florida, it's the Florida Virtual School. They offer a full-time program and a flex program. If you're in the full-time program, it's a diploma program, so you're not a homeschool student technically, even though you're doing all your classes at home through Florida Virtual School. The flex program is the one where you are considered a homeschool student, and it gives you it offers you to, you could take English by itself a whole year and be done in 10 weeks, 8 weeks, however fast you could do it. And then you could jump into another class. You could take 2 at a time, 3 at a time, 1 at a time, and you finish out your year that way. A lot of the sports academies that are popping up, they train all during the day. So to be in a regular school setting, it doesn't work for the kid because the kid wants to be at basketball at 10 in the morning. Well, can't go to Dr. Phillips or can't go to California public school and be in school at 8 in the morning or in practice at 10. So the non-traditional homeschool students. So page 21, there are different requirements. So make sure if you're a parent and your kid is considered homeschooled, which means you probably sent a letter to your county, look at that section. Very important, because you'd hate to make a mistake on your son who can play or your daughter who can play, and you homeschooled them, and then all of a sudden you get there and go, oh man, I forgot this requirement. So just do a double check on that page.
And we'll have all the links to all these documents, especially the guide to college-bound student athletes from the NCAA. Within that PDF, I believe you can click on the different links that are within each page. If you view it electronically, obviously, if you print it, you can't click on it. But I do have a printed one that I look at, and as well as use the one online. So, now we've gotten our kids eligible. They've got their core courses. They've, are doing well academically. Now I'm ready to go to college. And this little thing called the House versus the NCAA, which is kind of ongoing right now, is a lawsuit that's kind of combined three different lawsuits into one. And House is kind of taken over. And House is the last name of the athlete that filed this lawsuit against the NCAA.
Interesting.
And what it's done, technically, it's done a few different things. It's set aside $2.8 billion with a B dollars to back pay over, I believe, a 10-year period, athletes from back to 2016 who didn't have the ability to collect NIL. All right. What it's also doing is taking scholarship limits, tossing them out the window, and now they are creating roster limits. What that means is the NCAA used to have, let's say for football in Division I, you could only have 80 scholarships available to your team. Now with walk-ons, preferred walk-ons, kids that just wanted to pay their own way to go to school, some teams had up to 140 athletes in football on their rosters. The new number for roster limit for the NCAA for football Division I will be 105 student athletes. So if you look at from 105 to 140 or 130, football is going to lose 20 plus athletes that have the ability to compete and kind of hold their own at that level. They may not be good enough to play or good enough to start. They may take some development over a year or two, and by year 3 or 4, I love those videos. I cry when I watch these things on Instagram where the college coach is sitting there in the group huddle after the game or in a team meeting room, and they say, hey, Johnny, the walk-on just got a full ride scholarship. Everybody goes crazy. That opportunity looks like it's going out the window right now.
Wow.
So what are those 25 times 350 universities that offer football? Go.
Yep. Trickle down.
It's going to be a trickle down effect. With that being said, they're saying, okay, here's my roster limit. I can provide scholarships up to 105 now in football, but it's not mandated. So I could stay at 80 and have 25 kids walk-ons if I wanted. The issue is, and I'm reading this article, it came out in November, and I'm going to read some excerpts from it. Pending NCAA settlement, roster limits pose national signing day uncertainty. And we just had the late signing day on February the 5th, where a lot of kids may have signed something that they thought was going to allow them to go to that college. And in this article, unfortunately, it talks about a young lady, soccer player, who was committed to go to Penn State, was ready to go to Penn State. Penn State women's soccer coach picks up the phone and says, hey, our non-binding verbal agreement is out the window based on this new ruling. Women's soccer is going to be one of the harder hit. I think they lose 5 scholarships. Baseball is another one. 1 out of every 5 spots are gone. And football with the 25 is going to be gone. So a lot of coaches have some concern about whether they'll be able to get through a season with the number of injuries that occur, be able to have practice with enough quality players. And in this article, it mentions that, again, up to 10,000 student athletes are going to be affected by this ruling. So in this article, it talks about football teams would lose the most players, like I mentioned before, dropping from an average FBS roster size of 121 to a maximum 105 players. But I've read in other articles up to 140 on some schools. Those limits have prompted some football coaches to raise concerns about player safety and the fate again of the walk-on program. While some baseball players might benefit from increased scholarship money, like I said, they can afford. Baseball's going from 11.7 scholarships to potentially 34 scholarships. Their roster size 34. So if a Division I school has the ability to pay those scholarships, great. If not, they don't have to. But although, they could benefit from increased scholarship, nearly 1 in 5 current roster spots in baseball are scheduled to disappear by the start of the 25-26 school year under this deal. Again, if the settlement is approved, schools will be permitted but not required to offer scholarships to all athletes, which could lead to a significant increase in the financial aid players receive in some sports. What are your thoughts?
Red, I'm telling you right now, I'm looking at some stuff online. Certain things are going to change, obviously. Like now in some sports, for example, football, basketball, volleyball, were what they call head count sports, where you got a certain amount of scholarship. They were all full. Done deal. You got one, it was full. Now they're all going to be considered equivalency scholarships, meaning that in football, I might have 105 now, 105, but those don't have to all be full rides.
Correct.
Where before 85 was full ride. Red Johnson came to play at Florida, it was a full ride. Now Red Johnson, I don't know, maybe coaches are going to start packaging like we always talk about, because I always worked with kids that weren't that caliber of player really at Division I. And because let's be honest, playing Division I sports is way tougher than you think it is. Understand that now you might, instead of a full ride, maybe you get a partial ride. And it's not going to affect the big boys in major sports because they have the money. It's the mid majors, the low majors that can't afford. So maybe they partial it up. Academic money, maybe before you were getting Pell Grant back, right? Because if you were on full scholarship and you got Pell Grant, you were getting that back. Maybe now the coach says, hey, we're going to take your Pell. We're going to take your academic, and you only need $20,000. Well, that's only a 60% scholarship, so we'll give you 60%. I don't know. Maybe it works like that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned in baseball, it went up from 11.7 to 34. I've talked to numerous coaches in basketball and baseball. You have to remember, as you said, that doesn't mean the college is going to give 34 scholarships.
Exactly.
It means they have the ability to. I know a Division I baseball program right now, they're allowed to have 11.7 as of this year. They're only given like 7.8. Right. So you got to remember, athletics is a money-making machine. They're not going to give out a ton of money on scholarships if they're not bringing that money in, or vice versa. So just because it jumps to 34, Florida State's probably going to offer 34. Michigan, they're probably offering 34.
Right.
Maryland, Baltimore, Eastern Shore, probably not offering 34. I got to see how it plays out, right? Like anything, the law of unintended consequences. Maybe it trickles down to the athlete who thought it was going to work great for him, and maybe it doesn't work the way he thought, or maybe it works great for him. It's tough to tell because on paper, you just don't know how colleges are going to handle those scholarship numbers now. And you might have been a kid that before you would have been a full ride kid, and maybe now you're possibly not a full ride kid. So let's see how this plays out. And I think right now it's kind of like NIL for 1 year. Like we didn't know what was going to happen. Well, now we're in the year, couple or two, and we see what's happening.
Still don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we really don't know yet, but it's kind of evolving, right? And this will evolve over time as well. I would tell you this. Me and Red discussed it off screen. The trickle-down effect is going to happen. Those walk-ons that are at D1, at the Power 5 schools, they had scholarships other places. Like, let's be honest, they probably did. They're probably going to take those scholarships, which means the kid that was getting that level is going to go down a level, and then down a level, and then down a level. So your Division IIs, your NAIs, your JUCOs are going to be getting better. Yeah, they're going to get better quality kids. So going back to our installment on sports performance, it's probably even getting more important now because it's going to be tougher to even get those scholarships. Depending, it doesn't matter if they're partial, they're full, whatever. Even achieving one of those is going to be really tough, even tougher than the numbers that Red knows, like the numbers that are out there. Everything's in the low percentages of high school athletes playing college sports.
Oh, without a doubt.
It's going to get lower and lower. So, hey, make sure Johnny has good grades. Make sure Shirley has good grades so the academic part can give them a lot of money. And then they can throw the scholarship for sports on top of it, and you can go to school for relatively free. I wants to go to D3. I'm letting you know that's way harder said than done. I mean, my fault. I said that wrong, Red. Way harder done than said.
Right.
High level D1, yeah, we know it. NAI, D2, those scholarships, they're going to package everything together. If you can get your number low, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, just saying it. If you think you're going to go for free, that's really tough. But I like that goal. The goal should be D3.
D3.
Understand?
Free.
Yeah, D3. Free. Sorry, my THs. D3, FREE. But understand that there's a chance you're going to pay out of pocket. As long as you can limit those costs, you're probably doing pretty well for yourself.
You know, and I think with the portal, with junior colleges, with the new rule that could possibly come where they only count one of the 2 years that they play in junior college to their 4-year eligibility.
Yeah.
And also if the NCAA, I've seen talk that they are looking and talking about going 5 years of eligibility across the board.
Yeah.
For a high school kid to get into college out of high school is going to be rare. You're going to have to be one of the top 50 basketball players in the country, you know, one of the top, 100, 300 football players in the country. You're going to have to come in and be able to compete right away if you're going to go to a Division I level with the way these new roster limits look. A couple of things, Coach. It says, for coaches across multiple sports, the new limits raise concerns about having enough depth to absorb potential injuries, hold effective practices, and reserve spots for players that might need more development before they're ready to contribute to college teams. That line right there screams JUCO to me.
Yeah.
If a kid's
JUCO,
not ready,
post-grad,
junior college, IMG will probably have 7
academies.
teams now, right? But the development league, junior college may end up being a developmental league for a lot of different sports who don't have the space to bring kids on and allow them to develop over a year or 2 or 3 to be able to play.
And possibly all those other governing bodies you mentioned. Who knows when an NAIA kid or a National Christian College Athletic Association kid, you know, ends up being, he was 6 foot as a freshman, hits like David Robinson back in the 80s, and all of a sudden he's 6'9" as a junior, and he tells the NCAA, hey, wait a second, why are these years counting against me? I didn't even play Division I or II.
Right.
Like I was at a Christian college athletic. And so there's a chance that these are forever. Right now, we're in a state of flux, right, Red? These rules and what Red just told you, hey, I'm telling you, in 2 months, we might have to be like, hey, Red, we got to do another episode. We just told them all the wrong information because it's forever changing, right? It changes literally overnight. Pavia sued the NCAA 2 months ago, and it changed everything.
Right.
Right? And what happens if somebody else sues next week? So you just don't know what's going to happen. So as a parent, as a student, keep educating yourself. Right, Red? You got to educate yourself because this stuff is forever evolving. And what you think you know one day could be wrong the next.
And that's what hopefully here at Coach Red and Company, you know, we're going to stay on top of all this stuff. We're going to provide you with the most up-to-date information that we have and bring on guests that are experts in these areas. I tried to reach out to UCF Compliance Department. Unfortunately, they didn't get back to me in time. So we will see where it goes. I want to read a couple other parts on this real quick, Coach. Some Division I players may end up at Division II or Division III schools, increasing the quality of players at the tops of those divisions as well. Division II and Division III currently do not have roster limits. So that is definitely a benefit to those guys. Frank Marino, a youth sports administrator and a women's soccer coach at Division III Cal Lutheran, said, where I think this is actually going to help is for those recruits. I think if the youth clubs do their job, they're going to push those mid-major, lower D1 recruits to the top D2 and D3s. He also said, and I actually think it's going to be better the level of D2 and D3 soccer, because he's a soccer guy, but I think it's going to go across all sports.
Absolutely.
And I also think it's going to better the experience of those student athletes. At our club, to be honest with you, and a majority of parents will tell you this, and a majority of volleyball clubs we've been in only push these kids and promote the kids that are Division I players, because it's a money machine, right?
Exactly. It looks good for them.
But talking to junior college coaches, there's so many benefits to junior college for a lot of kids. It's not for everybody, obviously. It was for me, my wife, my oldest daughter, and we'll see about the young one. But we're huge proponents of the junior college system. Coach Shane, this whole thing is fluid, like you mentioned before. It's ever changing. I'm sure we'll come back on and do an update. The lawsuit is supposed to be finalized here in April, but I know everybody who had something to say or wanted to object to anything within this lawsuit had up until January the 31st to do so. So the judge will take all that information into account as she is making her decision. So we'll see where it goes. But as of right now, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you understand, students, coaches, that roster limits are coming. They are going to be a thing, whether schools decide that, okay, we'll fund all this scholarships, or we may not, So, I mean, it's up to the school whether they want to do it. We'll see where the roster spots go, but I believe it's going to kind of normalize a lot of people moving around a lot, because there's just not going to be a lot of spots available to go to. So we'll see how the portal plays into this. We'll see how the NIL plays into this, whether it's going to be able to have kids bump and, hey, if I got a kid, well, hey, I got Carson Beck coming, see you, quarterback A, you got to go. I think these guys are going to have to, and I know a lot of football programs are doing it. I just saw North Carolina's doing it, hiring general managers who are going to have to basically handle this like a pro sport. They're going to have to handle the NIL money. They're going to have to handle the roster spots. And it's going to be more of basically a semi-pro environment. I can't stand it. I hate it. I love the purity of college sports, but it is what it is. I mean, we're paying kids, which I didn't have much of an issue with. I just wish there was a hell of a lot more structure involved when the NCAA decided to do it. But with that being said, roster spots look like it's going to take effect if it's finalized in August. And, who knows? I know there's a lot of kids here in Orlando and throughout the state of Florida that are kind of in limbo with this. A lot of coaches don't know what's going to happen with it. So, as they're learning, we're learning. And we'll bring you the most up-to-date information.
Absolutely.
As we get it. So we wanted to thank you guys for listening again. We are going to have links for the Guide to College Student Athletes, the NAIA, the worksheets. We'll have all that down below in the description on our YouTube page. Please like, subscribe, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get the word out. We've gotten a decent amount of subscribers, but again, we want to make this the #1 high school sports athletic show if we can in the country. That's our goal. If there's any topic that you would like for us to talk about or any comments about any of our shows, please leave it in the description or in the comment section, and we'll get back to you with an answer. Coach, anything to follow up?
Yeah, one last comment, Coach. Saying that, since this is about eligibility, obviously Coach Red just talked about scholarship limits down the road. Hey, it's going to be tough to get your son or daughter into college athletics. make sure the eligibility isn't the reason they didn't do it. Make sure that, you did what you had to do. You filled out the right forms. You took the right classes. You registered on the right lines. You'd hate to have a son or daughter have the ability to play, and then you find out they can't play because you forgot to do one thing or two things. So don't let that be the reason your son or daughter doesn't play college athletics. If there is a reason, have it be because they're just maybe not good enough right now. But don't have it be the eligibility side.
And if anybody needs help with anything, you can always reach out
us
to
up.
us at coachredandcompany@gmail.com. I am more than happy to walk you through anything, sit down and meet with you, do a Zoom call, whatever it is. I did this presentation at a number of different high schools. Actually, when I was an athletic director at Oak Ridge, I did it at Jones. I did it at University High School. So for me, it's all about helping the kids and getting them prepared to be able to walk onto a college campus. So if you need anything, reach out and let us know. For Coach Shane, I'm Coach Red. You've been watching Coach Red and Company. Have a wonderful day.
Be good, everyone.
This has been Coach Red and Company, the premier podcast that takes an inside look at high school athletics like you've never heard before.
Touchdown!
Both Red and Shane are veteran coaches, and their passion is high school sports and going beyond just the X's and O's. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube at Coach Red and Company. Email us at coachredandcompany@gmail.com.